There we go. All right. So welcome everyone to the 13 biggest mistakes otaku make. We're going to see how this goes as I just kind of eat while I do this panel. Feel free to react and talk in the chat as we do this. So, I've been an otaku for many, many years, and I've seen folks make mistakes. Now, I will say, I am not trying to be... I'm going to be happy here. We're going to be upbeat. I'm not going to scream and yell much. We're going to just go through things that I see people make mistakes about, and I'm not here to beat down on people for things that they do. My job here is to stamp out ignorance. A lot of the mistakes I see people make is that they make assumptions based on lack of knowledge, and I'm hoping to equip you to know and understand that and do all that and have a better time as an otaku because you're not frustrated about all the things that seem to be wrong. And it turns out there are reasons for a lot of things. So let us start with mistake number 13. Moe was the worst thing to happen to anime ever. Right? Like, Moe just destroyed the anime industry. People just roll their eyes at the idea of Moe. Actually, Moe saved the anime industry. This is the Japanese real estate and stock market from 1980 to 2005. And we talked about this earlier in the day. Things went great for a while, and then they stopped being so great. Japan went through a major economic downturn in the 90s into the 2000s. What happens when there's a crisis? What happens when things go badly? What happens in times like ours? What do people want? When people turned to Netflix and turned to streaming services, what did they watch? Spoiler alert, it was not Citizen Kane. It was Friends. Right? It was easily digestible, fun shows. And that's what Moe was. Moe was a way of relaxing, of chilling, of enjoying yourself. And they were based on all of these visual novels and all of these dating sims from the 90s, like Canon and Heart and Clannad and all the others. And that these were already popular as visual novels and as video games. So they were an easy thing for the for studios to take on because the studios are suffering too economically. Right? The studios didn't have a lot of money, so they had to choose things that were more safe for them to adapt. Because the visual novels, the Moe games were selling so well, obviously you're going to adapt those into an anime. You've already got the characters, you got the voice actors, all that kind of stuff. Obviously they're not contracted yet, but those had been chosen already for the games. So the Moe saved the anime industry, both in the sense of keeping a lot of studios alive for a long time, and two, being literally that was what folks wanted. Folks wanted light, romantic series. Some less light than others. Looking at you, Clannad, and particularly School Days. But that's the thing. Moe was actually an important stage in anime. Now, you don't have to love to love Moe, right? Moe might not be for you, but when you hear people say, "Oh, Moe was terrible," Moe was actually really important. Mistake number 12: Japan is an otaku paradise where everybody reads manga and watches anime all the time. Not so much. I'm actually curious for you, Kira, how often you see people like reading manga on the train. Because when I was in Japan in 2012, for, like 10 days, I only saw it happen once. Granted, a lot of folks are on their cell phones, you can't tell. But I rarely saw folks like consuming manga or any idea of anime in public. It just was not that common. Obviously, people do read these things, but it's not ubiquitous. It's not like everyone out there is... It's not like all Japanese people are actually otaku and are actually like manga fans and anime fans. That has been my experience, at least in what I've seen over there. maybe 150 people, and that's considering they were getting on the phone. Yeah, that was the numbers I saw. So unfortunately, not quite what folks claim about. I actually had somebody who wanted to move to Japan as an otaku because they're like, it's great, everyone will accept me there because I'm an otaku. It's like, that doesn't follow. Just because you're an otaku doesn't mean that everyone will understand what you do in Japan. Mistake number 11, all anime, well, not all anime, but in Japan, everyone understands that anime is a serious adult medium. And just, the Japanese understand that animation is important. This is kind of a half-truth, actually. There is more understanding in Japan that there is an adult market for animation, right? Especially the late-night anime, that kind of stuff. Everyone knows that's being targeted towards young adults and adult otaku. No one is looking at Darling in the Franxx and assuming that is targeted at 5-year-olds. Even that's probably aimed at a younger audience, but still. So there is a market for anime in Japan that is understood to be for adults, but in Japan, as Kira was saying earlier, anime is still marketed towards a much younger demographic than it is over here. The average show, the big shonen shows are generally, the demographics there are targeted are pretty young, compared to over here in America. We're talking preteen, tween kind of demographics as opposed to this kind of stuff. So again, there's some truth to the idea that there's a more adult understanding of anime over there, but not quite. Mistake number 10. Boy, there are all these anime fans out there, and there's all this money to be made. So, why isn't Otakon just like free? Why do people? Why don't they just, release DVDs for like $5 because so many people are going to buy it, right? It's a huge market, in America or in Japan, right? It's this huge thing. Here it says, my local mall literally has baby clothes that are Demon Slayer. That's awesome. This is obviously a little old. I pulled this up together in 2013. These are DVD and Blu-ray sales in 2013 in Japan. Attack on Titan sold a total of 52,000 copies of discs in 2013. Free sold less than 30,000 copies in 2013. Kill la Kill, 11,000 copies. Love Live, 29,000, not too bad. And then, obviously, kind of the more kind of middle of the road shows, Samurai Flamenco, Servant Service, Hentai Prince, a couple thousand copies. The average show the average anime series released in 2013 sold 5,500 copies in Japan. It's one of the reasons it's so expensive. Those released in Japan, it's like $80 for a disc or whatever it is. There's not a huge market. There's not a large, population of people. There's not a huge number of people buying anime in Japan. And again, these numbers are probably a little different now, but still, you Attack on Titan, 52,000 copies. Like that's not what you imagine these things sound. Yeah, compared to video games, like this is nuts. So that's one of the reasons why anime is what it is. There are people out there buying stuff, absolutely, but it's not like there are tens of millions of otaku in Japan who are buying all this stuff. Not quite. Mistake number 9. This is a big one, way outside of anime. Let's be honest. But this idea that I hear about this anime all the time. So why is it hard to find merchandise? Well,
we're eating it.
Yeah. Business is not the same as social media. People can be talking about a thing and spending no money on that thing. There's sometimes a correlation, but not always. Lots and lots of things are talked about a lot, but don't make much money. Great example of this is the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, from those who remember this. this was a huge hit, Japan and America. Tons of I mean, all the memes, all the stuff. Like, this was the big show when it came out. And there was big fanfare over the American DVD release of this. Because, like, they really went to the fans for this. They actually posted clips of various auditions of the various voice actors for different characters in Haruhi, and asked, like, the fans to vote on who they thought was the best Haruhi or Kyon or Yuki or whatever, which is really cool. They came out with a disc set where you had 2 different sets of discs for the show, one in broadcast order and one in chronological order. Yeah. They really went all out. The box set contained a Haruhi armband, a Haruhi hair ribbon, all this stuff, and it barely sold because everyone had already watched it.
To that point, me.
Yeah. I mean, and literally, like, people would say online, "Why would I buy it? I already watched it once." And so we did not get a lot of Haruhi merchandise in America. It took a long time to get a lot of Haruhi stuff over here because folks were like, well, fans watched it, but they don't really support it economically. So why would I put out merchandise that nobody's buying? Right? So that happens. That is a thing in how all this works. Mistake number 8. Something's big in America, and it's big, again, on Anna Twitter, or on in any number of sort of American places. Sometimes that does not mean that it was popular in Japan. Do I have a slide for this? I do. Trigun. Trigun Badlands Rumble was announced some years back, a movie from the Trigun TV series. And the director said it was, they did that primarily because of sales in America. It is not a big success in Japan. It's fine. But not a big success in Japan. But the DVDs and Blu-rays of Trigun sold so well for so long that they were like, okay, we should make a movie. 20 years after the show came out. It took 20 years of solid sales of Trigun in America to finally get one movie. Trigun has been big in America for a long time. It's obviously less so now. But it was big for a long time, and that doesn't mean that the Japanese companies are falling all over themselves to to do that, because they're just getting the licensing fees, right? They're getting a slice of that money being spent on those things because there are lots of different fingers in those pies. So that's the thing. Just because you're hearing about it, just because it's popular online, doesn't necessarily mean that the experience in Japan with the Japanese companies matches up with what you're hearing. Mistake number 7. I bought a keychain, and so I am totally a major supporter of the Japanese anime industry. Hey, if you want to spend money on anime merchandise, as some folks just did, thank you very much. That's great. That's wonderful. It's a good thing. But be aware that the amount of money that goes in to support the industry is significant. Making an anime series costs millions of dollars. That keychain is at the end of a very long very large number of steps, with everyone involved in those steps taking their own bit of the money, because they all have a part in that step, right? Somebody has to manufacture it, somebody has to ship it over, somebody has to receive it and take it to the con, or what, right? All these different pieces. All those people have a salary. They all have rent to pay. So, again, this is more a matter of, there are those fans who are kind of holier than thou about how much of a better otaku they are because they have bought a few pieces of otaku merchandise. It's like, take a step back, chill a little bit. Being an otaku is great, having stuff is great, but don't overinflate your position in the anime industry just because you've bought stuff.
But it was an Ein keychain.
Right, exactly. It cost $7 instead of $5. Good question. What is the best way for the average fan to support anime studios? Is it by having a Funimation or Crunchyroll subscription, or does that even help? So, a couple of answers to that. One is, I do think like a Crunchyroll subscription is a strong indicator because the Japanese studios are aware of what that means. They look at those subscriber numbers, and if they see, oh yes, this big platform has lots of these numbers, they're then willing to license those to that platform, make it out there. The best way to support the Japanese industry would be to like buy the Japanese Blu-rays and the Japanese merchandise directly from Japan. You know, get very close to the industry itself and buy that merch, and then you are supporting those industries much more closely. That said, holy smokes, are you going to go broke? You know, that's a very, very expensive way of supporting the industry. You know, those DVDs, those Blu-rays are hideously expensive. And the merch is, I mean, it's not bad, but then you got to ship it. Good luck with that. Shipping prices are not great. So, you know, in terms of best bang for your buck, it's buying the merchandise as close as possible to the industry itself. But that's hard to ask anyone to do. It's expensive. You know, if you're in Japan, you can pick up you go down to Akihabara and pick up some things, but you know, some figurines, but then shipping them to Japan or from Japan to your country, that's gonna bleed you dry. So just FYI. But yeah, I think the subscription services are kind of, again, they're not perfect, but they're the most, you know, they're the strongest indicator of doing that. Mistake number 6.
Yeah.
They didn't explain this thing in episode 10. It sucked. This is actually a differentiation between a lot of kind of Western culture and Eastern culture. This is a well-documented thing. There's this thing called ambiguity tolerance that is very common in Eastern stories over Western stories. This idea that not everything is going to be explained because not everything is explained in life. It's not realistic, if you will, to have a story where every single thing introduced is explained in full detail. So Eastern stories tend to have more, not necessarily loose ends, but more things that are brought up that are not relevant to the plot, that aren't completely explained at the end. If you're doing a fantasy world building, someone's not necessarily going to sit down and explain, you know, the naming conventions for the pirate ships and why this is called this versus that is called that, because this is owned by there's all these various details, and that's, you know, that's a thing. You have to choose your battles. There's much more of that in Eastern storytelling as a general thing. So if you're into anime, if you're liking anime, get ready for a lot more things that aren't completely explaining it out for you by that final episode or that final chapter. There's going to be more ambiguity in terms of character backstory, who is who, why they were doing their thing, than in other stories. It is just, you know, a thing. It is just a very common aspect of anime that you kind of got to get used to. Mistake number 5. Fansubbers actually care about translation. The official companies, they don't care. They're just in it for the money. First off, we do not, going back to the earlier points about the size of the industry, Crunchyroll is not a 10,000 person company. You know, all of these companies are small by sort of corporate standards. All of those translators, they're fans too. Everyone working at Crunchyroll, Funimation, all these companies, they're fans too. And the reason they're translating for Funimation and Crunchyroll is like, I get to translate anime, right? If you actually talk to the translators at these companies, they're probably bigger fans than any of us. They absolutely care. Moreover, it is weird to believe that amateurs are necessarily better at a thing than paid professionals. Sometimes they are. All the time? For every line in every anime ever, that doesn't pass the stink test to quote a former client of mine. And this is actually something called the incomplete comparison fallacy, or it's also related to the anchoring fallacy and the self-serving bias. This idea that a fansubber is generally the one promoting the idea that fansubbers are, right? Like, if you've ever heard somebody say that fansubs are better than official translations, ask them where they heard that. Who told them that? Who gave them that idea? It was probably some fansubber site, right? Who did this whole polemic about how we know what we're doing and the professional translators are not. Professional translators don't say that kind of stuff. They don't stoke that fire. And so what's happening is folks who only have so much knowledge of the situation are assuming they know what the other side knows, and are making incomplete comparisons with this other side. So again, be suspicious of any claims that fansubbers are, leagues better than professional translators of translating anime. They're different. They have different ways of doing things, but that fansubber may think they know how to translate anime. But how do they know that? They may think they can translate anime better than a professional, but how do they know that? Like, have they scientifically proven that? I doubt it. And again, fansubbers are a vital part of our fandom. Like, I thank you, fansubbers, for all you do. This is nothing against fansubbers. It's just this claim that fansubbers are always better. That's problematic. Mistake number 4. Similarly, English dubs suck and Japanese dubs rock. Right? It's always better. Same thing as before. How familiar are people with the intonations of the Japanese language? With what a good Japanese performance sounds like? And if you say, well, I can tell, I'm going to challenge you to say, as an American, you are projecting your values of what a good performance is like on another culture. That's problematic, right? Now, I'm not saying, to be clear, that you can't enjoy Japanese dubs. You can't listen to Japanese dubs and enjoy them and get out of them. What I'm saying is, if you are passing judgment on Japanese versus English dubs, be very careful that you know what a good performance sounds like, right? We'll go back to that in a second. And I say this from personal experience. I know, I spent a lot of time listening to dubs, listening to subs, so forth and so on. And then as I got more experience listening to regular Japanese, as well as, Japanese in TV shows and movies, because there's some performance there, I go back to anime and go, oh wow, Japanese dubs, that's a style. Like, Japanese voice acting is not how people actually sound in real life in Japan. There's a structure to it, a pattern. There is a lilt to the voice. There's Japanese anime voice acting is a specific style of acting. Not bad, it's just different. And just be aware of that. And once I got used to it, I've had these weird experiences where I'll be watching anime with somebody and watching Japanese dub, and I'll go, okay, I'm like, what? And I'm like, that voice is not emoting very well. They're like, what? Because they don't know what it sounds like, right? And that's not to say I understand the Japanese language perfectly by any stretch of the imagination, but there is a certain aspect of that. So that's the thing. Mistake number 3. Whatever appears to be really huge is the biggest anime ever. Right? Attack on Titan was a big one for a long time, where that was, Attack on Titan is big, so it must be the biggest selling anime of all time. So, I'm going to show a slide in a second. That slide is going to show the 10 anime that had the top sort of Nielsen-rated episodes of all time. So, at some point during these anime run, they had an episode that was extremely high rated, got a lot of views, and these are the top 10 of all of those numbers. So effectively, the top 10 most viewed anime series of all time. I want you to guess what's on that list. I want you to ask yourself how many anime you will recognize on this list. And now I'm going to show it to you. Yeah. What? Sazai-san, Chibi Maruko-chan. These are all kids shows, by the way. These early ones. Actually, all of the top 5 are all kids shows. Then the final episode of Lupin the Third, season 1. Then Touch, baseball thing. Tomorrow's Joe, Doraemon, and the 1986 Kitaro. Now, I'm very clear about this, and I'm very certain about this because TV viewership is down so much that no one's ever going to hit these numbers again, right? Like you're getting 9s and 10s now, as opposed to anything like this. So it's this is probably going to be for all time the most popular shows. And if you go on and you look right now at the animation TV rankings, we did this a couple of weeks ago in the Weekly Dig. It's Doraemon, Crayon Shin-chan, Anpan Man every single week, every single time. The most popular anime, turns out, mostly are kids shows because it's like Sesame Street, right? It's playing all the time everywhere, and everyone tunes into it. It's just kind of part of the background noise. So it's very different. The Japanese experience is not the same as the American experience. What a Japanese person thinks of as when you ask a Japanese person about anime, the shows that jump to their mind are probably not the ones that jump to our minds because they're exposed to different things. Mistake number 2. I'm getting personal here. I see so many otaku who focus only on the shows coming out right now, on the current seasons, the current year. And this is actually problematic. This is actually kind of dangerous as a fan. Because what happens is, we all generally got into anime through our love of something else, right? You're a sci-fi fan, you like space opera, you get into it through Cowboy Bebop. You love, romance series, you get into it through Air or something. All of these various things. Or you like action, Demon Slayer. In any given series, in any given season, spring, summer, fall, how many of those shows are going to come out? There might be one sci-fi show per year in anime, or per season. And if you don't like that particular show, you're kind of out of luck that season. Right? So if you're hyper-focused on the current train, you're gonna eventually kind of either burn out of anime or just get bored. Because there's nothing for you right now. Because there never is. Because there's a wide variety of things. It's a large medium. And so getting focused on what's going on is a trap. Now, I'm not saying you can't watch modern shows. Definitely watch what's coming out. But don't just watch that. So what should you do? My suggestion is, why do I have all this stuff? Oh, yeah. If you are looking for other anime to watch, a really good way of doing that is don't do the top thing, trying to figure out what I was saying. I just finished watching Soul Eater. What should I watch after? Has to be English dub. I have seen Soul Eater and Gurren Lagann. What should I watch? This is not a very effective way of finding better anime to watch. Because, note, this person didn't say, I liked Soul Eater. Nor did they say that what they thought about Gurren Lagann or any of these shows. Just, I have seen, factual statement. I have watched 2 anime. What should I watch next? I have no idea. How can we know? Right? This is not a great way of going out and finding new anime to watch. So the recommendation is ask people, online, friends, here are the shows I like. Here's why I like them. high-budget sci-fi action, comedy, whatever. What other shows are like that I should watch? It's a really helpful way of finding new anime that you'll like. Because, again, we all may be anime fans, but there's probably genres of anime that we're more pulled to than others. So try to find those, as opposed to saying, recommend me a good anime. It's like, Also, frankly, people are just going to say Spirited Away every single time.
Besides, the answer is Garzi's Wings.
Right, this is true. Garzi's Wing is the canonical answer.
Yes.
That or Boku no Pico. Also, be very wary of top 10 lists, top 25 lists, top 100 lists. These are somebody else's opinion. This is somebody else's... by that I mean... I've come across folks who kind of only watch anime that are on top 10 lists or top 25 lists. That is just how they pull all their stuff. And when you're doing that, you're not using your brain at all. You just shut off your brain and said, I am going to trust this other human being for all of my media consumption. Right? Like, that's not the best way of doing that. Now, you can certainly go to a bunch of these and see what are the big trends. What is everybody recommending? That's probably something that is big and popular that is good for me to know about, to be aware of. Maybe watch a few episodes so I know what it is. But don't expect yourself to love it just because it's popular. It's just popular. That's all there is. It's fine. Yeah, exactly. Attack on Titan 2. Yeah, it's number 1, Attack on Titan. Number 2, Demon Slayer. Number 3, that's all the anime I've ever seen. I kid. So yeah. Yeah. So don't do that. Don't try to find good anime. Watch stuff yourself. Just find stuff. Don't rely entirely on other people to recommend anime to you. Go out and seek anime. You do that. Google space opera anime. Google magical girl anime. And if something looks interesting, go for it. Just watch anime. Indeed, okay, we'll get back to that in a second. There are times when I will go on Crunchyroll, go to the alphabetical listing, select a letter at random, and then scroll down until I see an anime that looks interesting and just start watching it. Who knows? I might find something really fun. That's a really fun way of doing things. I've found some really fun anime that way, actually. It's a great way of stumbling across cool stuff. And to those who say that's a problem, because if you start watching an anime, well, when I start watching anime, I have to finish it. Right? I have to get all the way to the end. Like I got to know what happens. Repeat after me. Watching one episode of an anime series does not commit you to watching all of it. When I did this live, I would literally have people raise their hands and, say it with me. It's okay. You can watch a couple of episodes and say, this isn't for me, and move on. And in case you think that is not true, have you ever seen an episode of CSI? And have you seen every episode of CSI? Right? I doubt it. There's plenty of shows that we watch some of and never go back and finish out. You can do that with anime too. It's alright. It's fine. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kira. Just try random stuff. Mistake number 1. The biggest mistake otaku make are to decide that anime is doomed for whatever reason. These are all things I have actually seen people claim are going to doom anime. Like, literally from people's mouths or posted online. The edited TV of TV anime of the 80s was going to make all of America think that anime is actually dubbed in English, and so they will not be able to actually watch subbed anime, right? The fact. Oh yeah, go ahead. Okay, yeah. The fact that the fandom at the time was mostly, older fans. There were no kids. Well, there's no next generation. They're all going to grow up and die, and there'll be no more anime fans. The high prices of anime back in the day, folks, anime was not cheap. Anime was not cheap. To quote a joke I like to say a lot, anime drugs would be cheaper. Back in the day, it was true. Like, we spent a lot of money on anime. That was an unacceptably high bar. There wasn't enough original anime, right? They were just repeating all this stuff. There weren't enough fans. Pokemon was going to ruin anime because it was going to bring in children. And children aren't real fans of things. It's going to ruin everything. Bubble economy, right, was a big deal. All these young fans. I remember when Naruto hit Otakon, the year Naruto came out, and like half of the cosplay was Naruto.
Yeah.
Like, it was just everyone was cosplaying that. That was the big thing. And guess what? We survived. You know? And again, you know, people were worried anime's too weird. Anime's too original. Americans can't get it. No one's going to get it. It's not going to work. And Moe, CGI, piracy, all these things were going to be the death of anime. Quick side story. In right before Pokemon came out, I've told this story before, but probably not here. Right before Pokemon came out, I remember reading a post online of an American fan saying, I'm going to be so angry when Pokemon comes out in America because I'm a true Pokemon fan. I've been watching this Fansubbed myself, and I know that Pokemon is a more mature, sophisticated anime series, and they're going to dumb it down for children. Seriously.
Well, okay. It was made, okay,
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And obviously, yes, Pokemon was edited, but it's aimed at kids too in Japan. Anime's fine. Anime will never die. It'll change. It'll evolve. There will be differences, but anime is going to be fine for a long time. I think this industry has gotten it's gotten through all sorts of things, changes, evolutions. We're going to be good for a while. Don't worry. Don't freak out. Don't scream because there are new people around. It is fine. We're all fine now. It's all good. Those are the 13 biggest mistakes otaku make. Thank you for allowing me to vent a little bit about some of the mistakes I've seen people make. Because, my gosh, chill out, everyone. Not you, but, you know, the people I see. Absolutely accidentally. It was $30 a disc, 3 or 4 episodes per disc around here. Again, sometimes 25, you know, a few 20s, but generally that. So yeah, that's that. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.